Welcome back, everyone. For those who are new, my name is Rudy and we are currently in my outside garden. And in today's video we have season 4 episode 3 of our multi-part Northern Lights grow series. Now our plants are still in veg, but in today's episode we are going to do a deep dive on how I make compost tea. Now this is going to be a basic compost tea brew that anyone can follow. But let's not talk about it now and just get straight into the video.
Alrighty guys, so today is day 38. This is 3 days after we did a small light trim of the bottom branches. But so far everything is looking really good. This middle one is still a bit of a mutant here.
Don't look at me, I'm hideous.
You can see it kind of branched off into like two main leading heads here. So this is one and this is another here. So it's definitely much different growing pattern than these two, which are very similar to one another. But I'm not too worried about this one. These are my two little champions here.
You were your daddy's favorite.
Very bushy. I might even take some more of these lower leaves since they still are touching the soil, which is not ideal. And I do want to top it, which I think I'm going to be topping it soon, but I just wanted to recover fully from our trim last time. Now for those of you following along with the grow series, here are the cuttings we took last episode. Everything so far is looking fine. None of the cuttings are drooping over, which is a good indication that they are still living. But the main thing here is just keeping the environment nice and humid since they are in the process of developing roots. They need that extra humidity in order to extract moisture from the air, which will help with their root development. But we'll just go ahead and keep an eye on them for now. Now today, we're going to be making some compost tea for the ladies.
Do you want a cup of tea?
Another cup of tea? You're fucking generous, you cockneys, aren't you?
Now to be honest, before I started making compost tea, I definitely was a little bit intimidated by the whole process. But I just want to let you guys know that compost tea is one of the most easiest and beneficial things that you can give to your plants.
Now what exactly is compost tea? Compost tea is a natural liquid fertilizer that is made by steeping compost in water. Now the purpose of brewing compost tea is to extract beneficial microbes and soluble nutrients, and then provide them to our plants in a liquid form that they can uptake and utilize. The main benefit of compost tea is to enhance soil health with these extracted microbes. Now I went into detail in a previous video regarding these microbes that I will link here and in the description below if you want to learn more.
Now before you buy anything, you want to think about how much compost tea are you going to need. Now I'm assuming most of you are like me and have a small to medium sized garden. So 5 gallons for me is going to be more than enough. So for this recipe, I'm going to be using a 5-gallon bucket. So now that we know how much we're going to be using, then we can go ahead and start to purchase an air pump that is adequate.
Now if you are on a budget, this is a good air pump for you. This is rated for a 100-gallon aquarium tank and is what I've been using to make my teas. Now as mentioned previously, this is a budget pump and it is not as powerful as many of the others out in the market. Honestly, the more air you do provide in your tea, the more active the microbes will be. So for the best results with a 5-gallon tea, you would want to purchase a pump that is rated between 500 and 1,000 gallons per hour.
And we also have 2 air stones.
The air stones are what's actually going to distribute the air into the tea to actively aerate it. The microbes that we are trying to extract from the tea are aerobic organisms, which means they require oxygen to survive.
Jazzercise? Why does your mother have an aerobics tape in her car?
And also we're going to be using a bag here as our tea bag.
This is a mesh bag that is used to replace those thin plastic bags that you put your veggies in at the supermarket. You can use any other mesh bag like a paint strainer bag or even a burlap sack.
And to fill up these tea bags, we're going to need compost. Now I have compost here that I took out of my compost bin.
Now if you don't have your own compost, you can definitely purchase compost at any big box store. Just make sure the compost you do use doesn't smell like trash or rotting food. If it does, this is indication that it's not fully broken down and can make your tea and grow room stink, and it could potentially result in extracting harmful organisms that you input into your plants. Instead, it should smell more like soil, kind of like the smell you get when it first rains.
Yeah, I can smell the rain coming. Miss you?
And you're going to also want an empty 5-gallon bucket with an optional lid. And the last thing we're going to need is water. Now we're gonna go outside real quick and get some water for my rain barrel. Now if you don't have access to rainwater, you can use tap water as well. But since most city waters contain chlorine, you might want to fill your bucket up and leave it sitting for 24 hours. This will allow the chlorine to dissipate. But an even better option would be to use some type of water filter like this RV filter here that I use for my outdoor garden. Chlorine can disinfect your tea, causing us to lose many of the beneficial microbes we are trying to extract. So by removing the chlorine, we can make sure our tea is rich in microbes.
I'm rich, biatch!
So now that we got our rainwater, we're gonna go ahead and put our air stones in and take our air pump and connect the tubing to the air pump. You want to make sure that you have enough tubing so that you can actually place your air pump on the floor, but I cut mine a little too short, so I'm gonna just put this on the seat here, and then I'm gonna go ahead and connect the air pump. So that's gonna start to aerate our water. I'm just gonna take some of our compost and put it in our tea bag. Now again, 2 to 5 cups of compost is more than enough, but honestly putting more than that is still okay. You don't have to worry about burning your plants when it comes to compost tea. So if you want to put a little extra, that's fine too. Now the thing about compost tea is that it is very customizable. So I'm purely putting compost. I can also add in any type of granular fertilizer that I would want. And a lot of people also add molasses to the water.
Molasses.
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 The molasses would help as a food source for the microorganisms, but for now, we're just gonna be putting purely compost. And now it's just a matter of putting it into our water. It would be a good idea to keep the air stones at the bottom. That way the bubbles are actually agitating the compost. We do want to give it a few dips just like you would your tea. Now we're going to let this seat for 24 hours. Now I like to place a lid lightly on top without pinching the tubes here. And I like to do this because I've had it to where my compost tea actually bubbles over. So this will definitely prevent it from happening. So we're going to let this steep for a full 24 hours. So we'll be back tomorrow. All right guys, we are back. It's been a full 24 hours and we're just gonna go ahead and take a look. And yeah, now she's ready to go. You're not really looking for anything in particular. Minimum time you wanna brew compost teas for 12 hours and the max is 48 hours. But let me get some gloves here real quick. And we're just gonna squeeze out any of this excess moisture. Now it is recommended to use the compost tea no more than 2 hours after you brew it and take out the pump. And that's because the tea will quickly become anaerobic, or without air. This will cause our microorganisms to die off and degrade our tea. Now you can put this compost on the top of your soil for your plants. However, my pots don't have that much room to add any more soil. So I'm just gonna go ahead and throw this right back into the compost pile. For me, I'm just gonna give about 4 cups to each plant. The amount of tea you give to each plant doesn't matter, so long as you're giving about the same amount as you would in normal watering. You don't want to overwater just because you brewed a batch of tea.
You better put some water on that shit, boy.
I'm gonna go little by little, and that's only because if you go too fast, then all of the compost tea is just gonna flush out at the bottom. So just take your time with it, little by little. And that is it, guys. We went through the entire process of how we brew compost tea. I told you before, it is not complicated at all. With a few tools and a little bit of ingredients, you can provide your plants with the most beneficial thing that you can provide to them. Now I'm gonna go ahead and finish off giving this compost tea to my other plants. Now if you did enjoy this video, don't forget to throw a thumbs up, and you can click on the on-screen icon right below me to subscribe. And there will be a few thumbnail links to the side of me if you want to see more content like this. This is Rudy with Gavada Garden signing off, and I want to let everyone know that you won't get a harvest if you don't sow seeds.